Coming to you live from downtown Detroit, this is Benzinga's PreMarket Prep with your host, Joel Elconin.
This is a volatile puppy here, isn't it?
And Dennis Dick.
I'm bidding a penny. I will buy the stock for a penny.
With everything you need to start your trading day.
Good morning, traders and investors. Welcome to Thursday's December 28th edition of Benzinga's Pre-Market Prep. I'm your co-host, Joel Elconin, with Dennis Dick. Luke Jacoby sitting in for a vacationing Spencer Israel. Got a good show lined up for you today. We're going to talk about the retail breakout or breakdown. Dennis is going to give us some details of a trade off the hop. Bitcoin tumbles off South Korean regulation. Gold continues its march towards 1,300. Oil consolidates under $60. Not all fun and games at Disneyland after a power outage. Lower guidance from JB Hunt. Big beat out of Live Ventures and the Fade Trade and NVFY. Looking at the markets this morning, thought the SPOOs may be in the 2680 handle for the entire week and pretty close. Our pre-market high 88.50, our pre-market low 84 even. Just developing a real nice trading range here ahead of 2018. As I mentioned, crude trying to get through 60. I'm just thinking 60.01, is that really going to be the high of the move, or you think they're going to run some stops here and before you have another move lower? As I mentioned, gold up 260 at 1294, maybe benefiting from the cryptocurrency decline. Here we see two or three tops at the $1,300 level, and silver in the green by 2 cents at 1677.5. Good morning to you, Dennis. How you doing this Thursday morning? Second last day of the trading year. Are you going to keep that streak alive?
What's my streak?
Of consecutive winning months.
Yeah, I am. I don't know where it's at now, but I have not had a losing month in my trading account since the year, I think it's actually since 1999. So I have my first 6 months of trading at Bright Trading. I had some losers, and then since both my 7th month at Bright Trading, I've not had a losing month since. So I believe it will stay alive unless I have a really bad couple of days, but I'm up fairly significantly this month. So hopefully it didn't jinx me, Joel, hereafter. I don't know what that is.
Stop trading,
Dennis. 12 times 17, what is that, about 200 consecutive months of making money? Pretty good streak.
Yeah, why don't you trade Riot Ventures, Overstock.com?
I'll lose, that'll blow my streak for sure.
what is that? NVFY, maybe those kind of things. But first,
the biggest reason behind that streak, though, just to give you some, behind the scenes action, because I trade conservative. I trade very conservative stocks, always, very conscious of, where, of my risk. I mean, it's all about discipline, getting out of them very fast. I'll give you an example. This is how, I've stayed profitable for 200 consecutive months in my Bright Trading account. And the way I've done that is all about, cutting the losers very quickly when you're wrong. You make calls. What trading's about. You make a call. Sometimes it's going to be right. Sometimes it's going to be wrong. But if you can get out of your losers very quickly and then let your winners ride a little bit, stuff works out, fairly well for you. And just yesterday, even on the show, I was saying, you know what? The retailers look like they had the potential for a 2-day move. So I actually bought a couple of retail stocks right off the hop, and I was trying to buy more retail stocks, but I realized I was quickly on the wrong side.
What'd you buy?
So I'm trying to buy the retail stocks off the open because I was like, I think there could be some follow through here. I just like the setups of the chart. So I was trying to buy Kohl's. I was trying to buy Nordstrom. I was trying to buy Macy's. I was trying to buy about a dozen retail names. I got filled in. The Kohl's was opening down, so I backed off that one a little bit. Just missed the Kohl's, which was lucky because it went straight down. But I've got them all on the corner of my screen. So I get filled on Dick's Sporting Goods. I got filled on, I think, 2 other names too. I think I got filled on 3 retails, and right away they're all red. And then I'm looking at Dick's, or I'm looking at Kohl's and Nordstrom, and they're going red, hard red too. I was like, I'm wrong. I've got to get out of these positions. So I quickly cancel all my retail orders. I actually get my Macy's order out of there. So I get my Macy's buy order out of there before the stock opens, because on NYSE, they don't all open at 9:30:00. They open when the designated market maker opens them. So some will open at 9:30:00. Some will open at 9:31 sometimes. Sometimes it takes a minute before they open on the NYSE. So when you're trading those, sometimes you got a chance to get some orders out of there. I actually got my Macy's buy order canceled. So I didn't get filled at, and it opened right at the top tick, and I would have been filled, and I would have probably lost 15 or 20 cents at least. So then I'm okay. Now I'm out. I've got these 3 retailers. I know I'm on the wrong side of the trade of. How do you know you're on the wrong side of the trade? You're losing money. So I'm trying to scramble to get out of them, and so I quickly sell the Dicks, and I think I lost about 15 cents. Which is about as good as I could do, because I bought the thing at around 30:30. It opened immediately down 20 cents. So you can see on the charts, it really never got that much above that price. So I quickly got out of that one. And the other 2, I lost a dime on something else and maybe a nickel on something else, a retailer. So quickly to get out. And that was because I identified I was on the wrong side of the trade very quickly, within like 30, within the first 20, 30 seconds of the trade. And again, just, when it starts moving against you, I want to see immediate gratification, especially as a day trader, short-term trader. I don't see stuff, all of a sudden just start going against me, because then I'm realizing I'm on the wrong side of the trade. And instead of hoping it comes back or hoping to scratch my loss, I eat the loss. I eat the loss as quickly as I can, and then work my way back, throughout the trading day to try to, obviously get those losses back. But you're never going to make, correct calls all the time. You just got to be right
Nimble.
More often than you're wrong, really.
Nimble. You were nimble on that, and that enabled you to get out. Great lesson from Fuzzy saying here. I just want to talk about the XRT in particular, because that I mean, if you were to buy, I know you don't trade those a lot, but
that opened up, and that was a key. And that's the other thing here too. Another lesson. Sometimes when I realize I'm on the wrong side of the trade, I actually make money, and I wasn't quick enough to do this because I got filled on 3. I was in damage control. But sometimes when I see, I was like, oh, these things are going the other way. Then, you might get a chance where something might open a little bit too high and you can actually short. So a lot of times I'll pull all my buy orders and then start putting sell short orders on the retailers that haven't opened, because there's so much information that opening tick. When they open them and kill them, then they start usually killing the whole sectors. Everything kind of tends to move together, especially, when you're within the sector, and especially within the retailers. Wasn't able to get the XRT, but XRT opened at the high tick of the day.
Yep.
And then puked all day.
Exactly. 46.09. That was shy of yesterday's high. But now what do you do here? It comes in here. This is the area that it broke out from, right? The 40, 45, 50, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 highs in a row. That was a low. Now you came back to, this is real interesting. I'm going to be keeping my eye on this 45, 50 level. I'm moving XRT up to the top of my watch list here, because I don't know. I mean, just think all the people that you got, they came in here after the breakout, more buyers at 46, and here we're back down. Real clear support down at 45, but I like the setups here. Maybe I'll even dial up Mr. Shaheen for a play where I'm not making such a call of, up or down, but capitalize if it makes a move. Let's just talk.
I mean, just before you move on here, I just give you my points on what these are actually set up for a 2-day move to the downside now.
Yep.
So I probably will be trying them from the short side, just because how I like my 2-day move. What that is follow through the next morning after, you have a big move and a counter move from a previous direction here. So you have a counter move where it looks like that was the first day of retail selling. A lot of times you'll have the Johnny come latelys come in, look at their portfolio, say, whoa, Macy's got hit yesterday, call their broker in the morning, or send their orders themselves, self-directed, and sell in the morning. And sometimes that works out, sometimes it doesn't, but I'll probably be trying them from the 2-day move to the short side. Again, if I'm wrong, I want immediate gratification on these. I want to see these things open, a lot of them near the high tick, and start seeing them fall. And if they start, opening near the low tick and start rallying, then I know I'm on the wrong side of the trade and I need to go into damage control.
All right. We got some Bitcoin news. Let's bring in Mr. Jacoby. Luke, how you doing on this Thursday morning?
Not too bad. Still nice and chilly in Detroit, Michigan.
Cold.
All right. So our Bitcoin expert here, we got some news out of South Korea.
Yeah. So a lot of these, the stocks, Bitcoin itself as well, are getting smacked this morning after South Korea came out and put on a series of new regulations. They are no longer allowing people to open anonymous cryptocurrency accounts, which was seen as one of the advantages of cryptocurrencies in general. They gave themselves the ability to close virtual exchanges pretty much whenever they want to. And they said they're also going to slap maximum sentences people using the cryptocurrencies illegally. So that's, drugs or whatever else people might be using it for. So definitely enough to spook the markets there.
So not allowed to use illegal activities, so they're going to sell Bitcoin on that news. We want to use it for illegal activities, the Bitcoin market is saying. What are we down here in Bitcoin?
We are trading
10%.
Yep, 10% at 14,571. We did get, I talked about that 50% retracement area. Man, I don't see how the 27th, how this got up to 16.9. I never saw that print. But anyways, the 16,000 area where, was the area that we were talking about here. Overnight, let's see what the overnight low is. I can't wait till there's more data here in the futures charts. But on the 1 day chart here, you got to 14,000, and that's where you got the bounce. That's an interesting level because that was your low on the 26th. So 14's a big level, trading at 14,571. Do we want to look at these?
Yeah, in a minute. Just the overhead supply I want to talk about in Bitcoin too. We talked about this yesterday on the show. I believe it was up at 16,000 when we were talking at Bitcoin. We're like, it's gonna be tough selling. It'd be tough to get up over there because everybody who bought it, for the 2 weeks between 16.5 and 19,000 are underwater, and they're looking to scratch. They're looking to get out, and there was going to be a lot of overhead supply. It only could stay up there for a day, really, and it's already given it back. It's telling me this trend has broken. From a technical perspective, the trend is broken. Until you can regain and start making new highs above 20,000, I think it's hands off for Bitcoin here, at least, unless we get a major breakdown and it starts to get cheap. But again, I don't know where the value investors come in something like this too, because I don't know how to value it. So the momentum is not there right now, and the momentum has turned here on this Bitcoin. It looks like rallies are getting sold as opposed to dips getting bought.
Yeah, and also you had the momentum traders, buying it, getting rewarded, and now they're buying it, not getting as much. The futures coming online, big anticipation of hedge funds and institutions piling in. That hasn't happened yet.
And I don't think it's going to happen. I'm going to say it again. I've said it, pretty much every day on the show for the last week. I don't think the big money's coming.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one opportunity that it did have in this short term was looking for some after Christmas buying when everybody's home and talking about it. I know I had way too many Bitcoin conversations, relatives asking me if they should buy it and how to buy it and whatnot. But we didn't see that one either like we did for Thanksgiving.
Right, a little bit.
But when you were talking, like at Thanksgiving, Spencer was saying everybody he was talking to was like, how do you open these accounts? How do you get this going? What was the tone that you found? Like, and I, obviously, I didn't really talk that much Bitcoin with my relatives there, but
yeah. I mean,
was it a different tone?
It was. A lot of it was, dang, I missed the boat on this one, or I think I missed the boat, or, should I give it a go, or did I miss the boat on it? So the sentiment definitely seemed to be, or at least on the Jacoby family, that this thing is
not as much hurry to get that account open and get in there.
Yep.
And that's what's been driving it, is the buzz, and the buzz has faded here as of recent late because the price isn't going up anymore. So that kills the buzz. We had our professor there, Jim Angel, on the show, who was saying that eventually that was going to be what burst the bubble, is that the buzz was just going to fade, and eventually it wouldn't be like a kaboom, Bitcoin's done. He just saw it kind of just fizzing out, is what I think he used the words.
All right, let's just talk. I talk commodities at the beginning of the show. Just real quick, oil, $60, 60.01, a couple other highs in that area, unchanged at 59.64. I mean, if you think you sold the top there at 60 even, I don't know. I mean, at 60.01, you got filled a 993 high and a 989 high so far in today's session. So, you're ready. I mean, if you're trying to short it here, you got to be out over $60. I'm sure after 2 days afterwards, some nice stops accumulating there. But $60 above that, 60.01, the high of the move. Gold benefiting too from the pullback in Bitcoin. Gold, boy, missed the boat on this one, moving up towards 1,300. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th day in a row higher. So, Dennis, I know you've been laying off the gold stocks for quite some time, but you did the transition into oil. So I'm sure you're looking love to see this move break out over 60.
I mean, it's been oversold. So now it's correcting here. It's definitely getting a benefit from Bitcoin weakness, I think. I think there is a counter trade here going on. And it's also getting a little bit of a pop here because the overall Momo, so if you look, at the Facebooks and the FANG and the Apples and the Googles, they've kind of just been, the last, I would say, couple of weeks here, not getting the kind of money that they were getting in before. So it's been a more conservative trade that's happened in December. Some of the value names have come in, and gold has benefited from that as well. We bottomed out right about the 4th day of December, and we've been going up ever since, really. So, well, I guess a little bit longer than that, but the second week of December, we've been going up. So the only thing is now you look at gold and you say, okay, well, I want to hop in this rally, but again, you're chasing the stock. If we look at GLD, it was at 117.40 back on the 12th. Now we're up $5. Coming into some overhead supply too. You had a couple highs back in October at 124. You had a high at 123.33 back on the 27th. Now you're getting into some points where it looks a little more, you're coming into resistance here. Silver looks big time. The silver chart's easier to read here, in my opinion. You look at the SLV straight down from 16 down to the mid 14s. Been on the way back. I mean, 16 was major support. Now you think that's probably going to become resistance if you believe that's in that theory, but old support becomes new resistance.
All right. Well, let's move on to some stocks, some individual stock news, and things are not all good at the House of Mouse. Luke, what's going on at Disneyland?
Yeah, so Disney had a power outage yesterday, shut down a lot of the rides. This is definitely peak season for them with kids out of school and people looking for a magical place to go to during the Christmas season. I heard horror stories coming from the It's a Wonderful Life ride, in that the generators kicked on right away when there was a power outage, and people stuck on that ride had to listen to the theme music from It's a Wonderful Life for close to an hour.
Well, it's not hurting the stock a whole lot here. I haven't looked at this chart in a while, but 112, I mean, is that shaping up to be major resistance? Got the pop over 112 with this Fox A deal. Got over there a couple times last week, and it failed. And I don't know if the same person that knew about the power outage had been shorting the stock the last few days, but Disney trading in the red, been volatile lately. Really, it's unchanged here. Dennis, 107.20, 106.75. Those a couple areas of support. December 12th to 13. Any thoughts on the House of Mouse this morning?
What's a 50% retracement of that recent move up? So you had the low, and we're looking back on December the 8th at 104 up to 112. So that's $8. Take off $4 to get, I guess you get 108. So you're starting to come through that 50% as of yesterday. So that's somewhat concerning. If it does break down through that, then I'd say 105.
Yeah, I mean, this has been volatile. Yeah, I do see a low just under 105. It doesn't look like it's moving a whole lot off that news. If you can't hold this 107 area, Dennis was referring to your December 11th low of 104.77. But this thing has been real volatile as late. Needs to get green on the session. Of course, yesterday's high, 108.55. So if you're playing it from the long side, that could be a target. All right. We do have some earnings news. Luke, Live Ventures, what the heck did they do? This thing is full of life here in pre-market trading.
Yeah, heck of a move here. A couple things going on. I'll just rattle through them real quick, and feel free to stop me whenever. They had full year 2017 sales were up 92%. I think that number is misleading. What the company does is they acquire different companies and then invest money to operate them. It seems like the biggest acquisition that they did was a company called Vintage Stock, which sells DVDs at retail locations. So definitely not a business line that we've been talking about is especially sexy. They had a little bit of buyback. They had a little bit of short interest in there. But I think that the first analyst question on the conference call really sums up, or maybe throw some question at this move. And the analyst asked, why was the stock price so low yesterday, and why is it so high today? And the CEO just, threw out the generic, I don't know, I'm not interested in day-to-day trading activity. But that was the first analyst question was, why was it so low yesterday and so high today? So clearly that person who does, follows the fundamentals on the stock didn't have a ton of insight either.
Denny, any comments before I give the technicals? Because
I mean, this stuff, it's so hard to. I'll give you my comments in a second.
Okay. All right. I will just say it got that pop to 25.01 on that initial surge here. Actually, that was just a few brackets ago. I love that level. You know why I love that level? Because the high of the year is 25 even. So it did that in January. Man, so you've been sitting on this thing. Let's go to the monthlies here. You've been sitting on it all year. It's been a dog here after hitting that $25, find support just under 10, and then boom, goes from what was yesterday's close, 13 and a quarter, and now you're up near the high for the year. I mean, I know if I had it, I'd be ringing the register here. I think that 25 could very well hold up as the high of the session. Of course, keep your eye on that opening print and see what the initial activity is. But boy, oh boy, just when you look at a monthly chart here and you see that 25 high from January, I mean, nearly a double at that point. So we'll see what happens in live.
How's the volume on that one, Joel?
Let's
Under
see.
93,000.
Okay.
So we've got some volume. The one thing to consider is this market is a crazy market. Thinner markets, when stocks start going one direction, it's difficult, to just get the turns and, to call it perfectly like this could be the top. Look at Watt yesterday. Me and Joel were liking that 20. We're like, maybe 20 holds. You get all the way up there. That's where all your old highs were, 26, 27. It blew right through there. I mean, it's tough to day moves. Once you get the initial, the trade's almost made after the initial, move turns. Then you get some follow-through sometimes. But just to call where a stock's going to turn, that's a difficult gig.
Yeah, that Watt move is crazy. I'm just looking at that chart again.
Yeah, let's look at the
crazy yesterday.
Crazy. 22.35 here. Watt, that hit 25 yesterday as well. Pulling back today. Now, when you have a big move like that and you get a pullback, I always like to keep an eye on unchanged, right? Because if you were buying this thing, I was in the chat said, oh, we're going to get a 2-day move higher yesterday. I was wrong. Profit takers have come in. 23.75. That was your close. 24.10 high of the day. Trading down $1.42 on pretty good volume here. So maybe some of the shorts are reloaded here and are ready to go back at it. But that close at 23.75, very, very important.
And just to hop in real quick and re-summarize the news from yesterday on that stock. The company produces a device that charges charges you things like your cell phone or your laptop wirelessly up to 15 feet away. So if you're on the couch and you've got, their transmitter on your TV stand, you can still be charging. And they got FCC approval for that device yesterday.
And we were looking at this one too, Dennis. It was kind of sleepy off the open and really gave you a lot of time. Opened up at the $16, $17 area, dipped into the 15 handle, and then the buyers just came in, starting it up around 3 o'clock and just pounded that for the last hour. So that last hour move with the big volume came in. You see what happened to it. All right, we also got some stock.
It's just the momentum market. That's what it is. It's been the momentum market for a long time. That ball gets going and rolling in one direction. It's hard to get it going the other direction. Once it turns, though, then they turn for a while there too. So it's all about identifying the turns once they have turned. I think there's more money, in identifying the turn after the fact than before, because when you're trying to do it ahead of time, saying, "Oh, this is a key level, it's going to turn at this point." Sometimes they do, but a lot of times they just blow through.
All right, let's go to stock specific news here. And boy, not a good day to give lower guidance here. JB Hunt comes out with some bad news today. Spencer, I'm sorry. Only did that once so far. Luke, what do you have from JB Hunt?
Yeah, you can call me Spencer whenever you like, Joe. All right, so they came out with EPS of 77. They said they're going to see 77 cents to 82 cents. Versus the 102 estimate. So that's a nice 20+% miss right there. And then they said they see sales 1.9 billion to 2 billion versus the 1.9 billion estimate. So right at the bottom range there. Or actually not horrible. Their bottom range is right where the estimate is. They didn't give a ton of description in the press release as to why they're coming out with these numbers. They did give a little nod to the tax bill. Tax bill did not impact these numbers, but they did throw in our operating income will be higher in the future. We use the 37.6% tax rate here. We're not going to be using that 37% for much longer. It's sort of read it as a last effort to mix some good news in there, but clearly not great.
It's hard to say. It's things trade 741 shares, so
Exactly.
we don't know how bad it's going to get hit. All I can tell you is it is offered down $2 here in the pre-market at 113.45. You just had an on lot trade at 111.61. Best bid is way down at 105.50. So you can say it's 10 points lower. So price discovery still on here. We don't know how hard this is going to get hit. If you're just looking, I don't know, Joel, you could go 50% retracement on this too. From the 101 up to the 115, you could say like the 106, 107 area would be your 50% retracement if we, give back half of, this current move. But it's so early here in the pre-market, it's no real indication on how low this is going to get.
It's just interesting timing on this thing. It hits all-time high, right? And they come out with this news. So I guess the timing of it is, not too bad as far as the stock price goes. So this could have a lot of room on the downside. I just like to look where I see a bunch of daily lows, and I see a bunch at the 111 level from basically for 6 sessions in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5 sessions in a row. Your lows were from 110.50 to 111. We're currently trading near that area. So if you got a great short 116, 117 handle from yesterday, and you want to bring it in, there's a potential area. But after this kind of run from the 101 area up to 116, saying that it's going to stop on a dime of 111, I'm not quite ready to step out on that.
And Joel, I bet that they came out with this guidance because the stock had that run. This company's never put out intra-quarter guidance before. Any sort of investor warning, in all the years that it's been a publicly traded company. So I wonder if it's hopping in to give this warning now before, it gets really cracked when it puts out a bad.
Where'd you get that information?
I got that right out of Benzinga Pro. Type the ticker into the guidance calendar and saw that they only give full year guidance at their quarterly updates. So.
All right. Now they're plugged there for Benzinga Pro. Dennis, is this big enough news to incite any sympathy plays?
And other truckers, like you could think like a Ryder. I don't know. I haven't really looked this morning, but it's you only trade 1,200 shares. So, let's wait to see what it's actually going to do here. And the stock just actually traded back up the 113.45 too, just on an odd lot. It's too early here yet to really jump in and see if all your transports are going to start getting hit because of this guidance. There's not much interest in the main. If there's not much interest in the leader, there's often not a lot of interest in the laggards. And I just haven't seen much interest here this morning, even though it's offered down. We'll see what happens in the regular session. Start getting rocked. There's a point there to be made. Maybe you look at some of the other transports. But as of right now, the trading activity, even in the leader here, JBHT, is fairly muted.
I'll tell you, if you're looking at Ryder System Incorporated, I thought I wanted to see if that was at an all-time high. It's not. 10064 is all-time high in that. But look, you keep an eye on it. If you're trading Ryder Systems or you're looking for a sympathy move here, keep an eye on the $85 level. We have peaked out in 4 different months going back to early March here in Ryder. So there's a potential level for you. The highs in the last 2 sessions, 84.92 and 85.04. Trading unched here, so we'll see if the move can continue. Actually, you had a high on the 26 of 85.60. One close in the 85 handle at 85.02. 8:30, ding, ding, ding here, Dennis. Any imbalances in it?
We got jobless claims just came out. I don't know if you have that number in front of you, Luke. It's not making the market move. Surprise, surprise. But do you got those numbers?
Give me 1 second. All right, I got it up. So you got 1.93 million claims versus a 1.90 million estimate. So pretty much in line there.
Right.
And the market just kind of shrugging it off. Seems like the market shrugs off every number, even the jobs numbers anymore. So economic numbers have not moved this market in a year, really significantly. Let's look at the imbalances, see if we see anything jumping out here. They just came out at 8:30. General Electric, 286,000 to sell. Maybe some a little more year-end tax loss selling. It's starting to try to leak here a little bit, but it hasn't been bad, really, the tax loss selling. You'd think this one would have got hit harder this month, but it's kind of, well, I guess it's down. What are your thoughts here, G? You were playing some puts on it, Joel.
I did. It's just too slow moving, just too thick of a stock. I mean, the way
I'm not trading it anymore. It's moving slow enough that I like the boring stocks, but I haven't even been trading G because it's moving around in a nickel range every day.
Yeah, and it's it's trying to form support here. You've seen this kind of before. It looks like you could be having around the bottom. It looks like you could have couple more months here if the longer can hang into this 1730 to 1731 is the low of the move. You've hit 1735, 1738, so it's finding buyers in here, and really not surprising. I mean, this thing has come down from the $23 area in a pretty short period of time, so shorts are probably bringing it in. So we'll keep an eye on what's the low of the move here in GE. I think it's 1731 and hit that yesterday, but that's flanked by a few other lows at 1740, 1736. So decent volume yesterday, but just another consolidation period. I can't tell you that on the upside there'll be no party in GE land until you can clear at least 1769.
No party in GE land until they change their name to General Blockchain.
Okay.
Not a bad idea.
I don't know if that's happening. G has just been dead money. It's been a horrible stock that I've had in my investment portfolio. I did not sell it for the tax loss.
You're not going to? Is it too late?
It's too late in Canada because we're going settlement date. So they go trade date in the States, settlement date in Canada. So I would have had to sell it yesterday to obviously book the losses there and I thought about doing it. I really thought about doing it because I've had a pretty good trading year. But I was like, you know what? I've had this in my best portfolio for 17 years. I'm gonna be really mad if it starts to come back, or they change their name to General Blockchain. So I've had it for so long. I think I'm a GE holder probably for life, even though the stock or the company has been terrible in the last year, ever since the Baker Hughes purchase.
I think I can't feel my Facebook has been, hanging on to this Visa for a while, and it's had some dips and some rallies. I just would keep an eye on. We've been talking about this for a while. The 114 handle, the all-time high and the high of the move, 114.75. That was on December 18th. It's taken a couple other stabs in the 114 handle, 114.07 yesterday. So you want to see this thing open up, hold the close, and then barrel up. Today might be a tough day because I think kind of what it feels like in the market is, people are locking in. They're selling these pops we're getting. They're selling into strength and on dips, they're really not going very far either. But it just seems like a little bit of overhead supply. But if you can maybe get that print over 115 and 114.75 being the high of the move in that one.
Visa, MasterCard have been the monsters of the last decade, really. These two stocks, if you bring them up on an 8 or 10 year chart, it is straight up. There's not a pullback in Visa really of more than like 10%. Look at 2011, we were down at $17. 2012, we're at 25. 2013, 43. We had a little bit of run from 14 to 15, where a year where we really didn't go up, but it didn't go down. That's a down year for Visa when it doesn't go up. And then 15, 16, 17. I mean, just been a monster stock. We've had it. It's been unbelievable. I've had MasterCard, and like I said, it's been one of my best core holdings here for the last 10 years.
And look at this 112 area. It got down there and flirted with it. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lows. So if you're looking at sell on weakness, look for under 112. All right, it's 8:35, and it's time to bring in Alan Brochstein, and we're not even going to take a break today. Alan, he's the author of the 420 investment letter. He keeps track of stocks in the cannabis industry. We are dialing Alan up right now in Houston, Texas, and I see it ringing here, and it's ringing some more. Alan's been following the sector for several years, and let's get his take.
Yeah, and I'll pop in too and say that Alan's portfolio has been smoking hot. I've been following Alan for a number of years, maybe 3 or 4 years now, and he's been on a heck of a run in 2017.
All right. That call failed. Let me try it one more time here. We'll take a quick break and we'll grab Alan. Welcome back, traders and investors, to Benzinga's Pre-Market Prep, brought to you by Benzinga Pro. I'm your co-host, Joel Elconin, along with Dennis Dick, Luke Jacoby, and Alan Brochstein of the 420 Investment Letter. Alan, Happy New Year. How are things going down there in Houston, Texas?
Just awesome. It's great to be back on.
All right, so sum up the year here for the marijuana sector. I mean, some stocks have done pretty well, like GWPH back near all-time high. We'll talk about that in a second, but talk about the sector as a whole, your portfolio, and kind of what was good and kind of what was bad.
Sure. So, well, this is a year where the patient were rewarded. Not that surprising to me. The negative of the whole year was that people were worried about Jeff Sessions and the Department of Justice and how things might change negatively all year. And at the same time, everybody knew that California legalization was on the horizon, as well as progress in Canada, which we've talked about a lot on the past shows. So all this led to the market being down near its lows at the end of October. And then all of a sudden, I like to call it a green swan. I know everybody's probably familiar with the black swan, but a big green swan flew in. Constellation Brands made a truly historic investment into Canopy Growth, the leading Canadian cannabis company in terms of market cap and sales. And that really set off a lot of buying, not just in Canada, but really here in the United States as well. And so here we are. The index has now increased by I think about 150%. I'll do that math real quick. Something like that since late October. Pretty crazy.
All right. We can ask some questions here right out of the chat, and I don't want to miss them. The first one comes from Big T, and Big T is asking about Canopy Growth Company. And whoa, I hope you had this one.
Been a monster.
Hey, look at
these
this.
Canadian pot stocks have just been unbelievable there. Talk about that, that investment that, has really propelled this, jump into the details and how this has really propelled a lot of the other Canadian pot stocks as well.
Sure. Well, look, the whole thing, depending on who you listen to, it was like a transformational deal for the sector or for the company. And in either way, it was a very big deal. What it did was it told you that what's going on in Canada is really big, because a United States-based company that wants into the cannabis sector has really very few choices. They either break federal laws or they go to Canada, and it's all copacetic. And so there hasn't been a lot of follow-on in terms of there hasn't been any in terms of actual other companies making investments, but this was a big wake up to any sort of alcohol company out there, like Constellation Brands or even pharmaceutical company that you may have to jump in now as opposed to waiting for things to play out. Cannabis is a global theme, and unfortunately, United States, America is losing when it comes to cannabis, but the rest of the world is making a lot of progress. Canada going fully legal next July, approximately, hopefully, but that's on track for sometime next July to be the first large country to go fully legal. Uruguay, not exactly a big country, is fully legal down in South America, but Germany, federally legal on a medicinal level, and the rest of Europe is opening up. You have Australia in its very early stages, and Canopy Growth and Aurora, two of the leading LPs in Canada, do have stakes in two of the leading companies in Australia. So really I think that deal really opened up investors' eyes to the fact that it's not just about Canada, it's about the whole world.
And alcohol company, did you find that surprising that, a spirits company that's just done extremely well made the venture as opposed to like a tobacco or pharmaceutical company? Did that catch you off guard at all?
No, well, maybe the timing in the way the deal was structured, and it's hard to structure these deals. These alcohol companies like Constellation Brands are huge compared to the cannabis companies. So, for them to find a way to invest where it's actually potentially meaningful is pretty challenging. And so in this case, you had one of the smaller big alcohol companies invest in up to 20% of what's the largest LP. So it's going to be interesting going forward because you may see like 100% takeout to move the needle. But no, not surprising at all. When people think about, well, let me back up a sec. There's an analyst in New York, Cowen and Company, Vivian Azer, who covers the sector, and she doesn't cover big pharma, but she covers alcohol and tobacco. And the reason why she covers the cannabis industry is, I think, really defensive. She knows, and she's right, that cannabis could be a threat. I think more to alcohol than tobacco. People like to think that that tobacco is somehow related to cannabis. And there's some interesting distribution parallels, but that's not really an either or. Alcohol and big pharma, these are really the two threatened areas by cannabis legalization. Obviously, it's not yet fully proven. We just got news today that the FDA is accepting GW Pharma's NDA. They're going to have an advisory committee. And so we could have a cannabis-derived drug on the market in late 2018, if all goes well. And so, big pharma knows that there's some things out there. That's for epilepsy, but there's a lot of stuff in pain management and other areas where cannabis may be the right kind of compound. And so that's going to, if the pharmaceutical companies don't get on board, they're at risk of losing out over time as other companies develop cannabis drugs. I think the easier one to understand is alcohol. Alcohol doesn't really have the health effects for the most part. I drink red wine. I guess there's something to that, but for the most part, it's not very healthy, and it's something that's an intoxicant like cannabis can be, except that cannabis also has the health benefits. And so right now, it's very socially acceptable to go to a bar and drink with your friends, and people don't really look down on that, whereas you can't really do that with cannabis. And that's going to change over time. And so the fact that Constellation Brands is looking to evolve a new type of beverage that's cannabis related without alcohol and partnering with Canopy Growth is not at all surprising.
These moves have just been absolutely incredible. And, the chat is lighting up. Actually, you can see, it's hot. The chat's lighting up with ticker symbols for you here too, Alan. We'll get to a couple
I'm not
of those.
looking. You can run them by me. Go ahead.
We'll get to those in a second. We know you cover them all. But what are your thoughts here? The only concern I have here is, like, I look at these charts, and I look at like an Aurora Cannabis, and it was $2 back in October. Now it's $6. You look at Canopy Growth, it's up from $8 or $10 to 21 or 22. You can look at Afria in Canada, has went from $4 to $17 here in the last few months. Are we too late to the party here? Is valuation an issue, or you feel like you can still chase these things and there's still money to be made? What are your thoughts here, more from a valuation perspective?
Yeah, well, look, I'm the kind of guy that likes to pound the table when things are cheap and not run up like this from a technical perspective and valuation. So I will be the first to say, yes, a lot of these stocks are overdone technically. Some of my technical indicators say that the first quarter could be a little bit light for these names. And then I think if you're not willing to look past Canada, they're definitely overvalued. And even if you're willing to look past Canada and try to incorporate some of these unknowns in terms of other markets, they're probably overvalued. But you know what? Bitcoin, maybe that's overvalued. I don't know.
Everything's overvalued.
I've been at this so long. The thing I like to tell my subscribers is, yes, it's overvalued, but that's not the only thing. And by the way, I'm a guy who never thought Amazon was a good value, and it was a great investment. So yeah, I think investors need to understand when things are expensive, but not necessarily fear them. And I guess that impacts position sizing and the way you construct your portfolio and all that. But So yeah, great points, Dennis.
Let's jump over, and there's a couple symbols coming here from the chat. And if I miss a couple here, let me know. But there's we got Gelded. He's asking about TANX. I don't know any of these companies, or follow any of these companies. So you may have to.
That symbol just kind of threw me for a loop. If I might have misheard you though. What's the symbol?
Is it ANX or maybe he's typed in a couple different symbols. AMX and ANX and TANX. I'm not sure those are stocks.
I don't know what those are.
Yeah, let's jump. Okay, so let's try to. We'll just grab them random. MJX. Do you have this one?
So that's a new ETF. I am boycotting it. I think it's atrocious what happened there.
What happened? What's the deal with that?
Well, it was a terrible ETF, and they said, well, let's just screw our investors and turn it into a cannabis ETF. So it's officially the first cannabis ETF in the United States. I would tell people I'm not a big fan of the Horizons Fund, but you got to give those guys credit. I've been very critical of kind of the construction of the portfolio, but they've amassed $400 million in assets. I would hope they'll lower their fee over time. But in any event, back to this MJX.
What is the fee?
75 basis points a year. And it's just very easy to replicate. But I get it. And I tell people, look, if you only have $10,000 or less to put in the overall market, I get it. If you have more than $10,000, just spend a few minutes, pick a few stocks. You can go and look exactly what they own. You can get rid of a couple obvious ones. With this other one, it's a lot worse. It's only $6 million, or maybe it's a little bit more now, but it launched. It was only $6 million after they turned it into some sort of, from a Latin American ETF into a cannabis ETF. There's absolutely zero reason to have any confidence in the people running it. I'm not saying they're bad people or anything like that, but there's just no demonstrated understanding of the space. And then you look at what they're doing. They're investing in, like, I don't know, Asian tobacco companies. I'm sorry. This is stupid. I'm just going to say that it is a big waste of time. I get it though. And there's a lot of people out there that think, oh, we're going to squeeze it, but I don't think that's going to happen. They're just going to create more and more units. So a lot of people are interested because it's small and they think that it can be exploited. Look, if you want to play that game, there are plenty of smarter ways to play that than to invest in this little ETF.
Do you know
the other index here, HMMJ, Horizons Medical Life Sciences?
That's the one I was just talking about. And
okay.
Look, that's a very professionally run organization. I don't want to criticize what they're doing at all, and I want to commend them for being the first and for building it. But investors should understand exactly what that is. It's basically 4 large LPs, GW Pharma, and some really weird names, including Scott's Miracle-Gro, which yes, they have a large cannabis division, but at the end of the day, it's the wrong kind of grass company. It's just a regular grass company. And, you're investing in fertilizer cycles and things like that. Nothing against Scott's Miracle-Gro, but if you want to invest in the cannabis industry, to buy something that has, it's 10% of their overall business doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And it excludes a lot of other companies. So, my subscribers at 420 Investor are really happy because they can pick and choose among the 25 names on my focus list or beyond. There's more names. And there's plenty of ways to make a lot of money trading. You don't have to pay that 75 basis points. There's good liquidity in a lot of these names, yada, yada, yada.
How about IMLFF, InMed Pharmaceuticals here? Penny stock, but has had a good year in 2017. Any thoughts on IMLFF?
Yeah, it's not one I follow extremely closely. It's a biotech. I actually visited them back in 2014 in Vancouver. Was not impressed at all. They've cycled through a few CEOs, and the last one and also the current one have some big pharma experience. So it's interesting. They talk a lot, very promotional, which is something that turns me off. So that's one of the things that kind of keeps me from really having a lot of confidence that I should invest my time in following them closely. They're like a biotech, so they don't have to have revenues, and kudos to them. They've managed to raise some money, and that's a good thing.
All right.
Let's go back to GW Pharma because you mentioned it today, and it's in the news here today. And GW Pharma has just quietly got right back to its highs here. What are your thoughts on this one? Yeah,
you guys got me in trouble last year because I was just being honest and sharing my opinion, and these people ripped me on Twitter. But
what happened, Alan? What happened?
If you go back a year ago, you guys asked me. I said, look, I think GW Pharma is going to be a late 2017 story, and I talked about. I know I was right, but So look, the year was tough, and what happened and what I feared was that there was going to be a delay in their filing of their NDA, and so look, there's more to GW Pharma than just Epidiolex, which they did file that NDA a little bit late, but it's filed, it's ready to go, and we'll hear mid-year. There is more, but that's really the big story, and it's a binary event. I actually, I have a lot of respect for the company and for what it's done over the last, what is that, like 20 years as a company or 17 as a public company. They fought a very hard battle to get to where they are, and I think Epidiolex is going to be $1 billion drug, and the stock will probably go higher. But who knows between now and then how it's going to play out. Hopefully, they get the FDA approval, and hopefully the launch goes well. And there are some other things, but it's all about Epidiolex right now. And so the delay this year really cost them. But since then, wow, they did another deal. So I had like zero position, and when they announced that deal, it drove the stock down to about 113, 112, and I added back a small position. It's not one of my favorite names at the moment because we're in this like roaring bull market in cannabis names, and to sit in a company like GW Pharma, you're not going to do as well. But I imagine if it were at this price and we were closer to that PDUFA date in June, late June, I might be more involved. But I don't like those binary situations. Do you, Dennis, like betting on a biotech with no drugs on the market?
I don't like 50-50 flips. No,
I don't like that.
I'd go to the casino and play on red or
But you know what? The company will get through whatever happens. That drug will be approved. Maybe the road will be rocky, hopefully not. And I think that drug will do very well. So when it's all said and done, I hope to be a lot more bullish on GW.
All right, two more quick ones. Any information on IIPR here? It's had a real nice run as late. Innovative individual
properties. Look, this was I thought this was one of the stories of the year in 2016. It wasn't very well timed, but it was a New York Stock Exchange listed REIT that came from people that have had a lot of success in the healthcare real estate investment trust space. And so it was exciting, but at the same time, it was scary because there was no real clue that they knew what they were doing. The IPO was a total bust. They had to cut the size by over 50%. So they basically went into, and they had to give up all their shares, the insiders. It was a disaster. But I've been watching it play out all year. And, back to that HMMJ, they added it to their portfolio. And when I saw that, I noticed that was the first time it ever traded above the $20 IPO price. Went over a year without getting there. And so when I learned that, I did add a small position. I'm out now already. I think it's a little bit overvalued. It's a very interesting concept because capital is very tough for the cannabis space, and so rather than own your facilities, it makes more sense to lease them. And so there are other companies that are doing this. IIPR though is publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange. I think it appears like it's going to have a cost of capital advantage over some of its peers. And I think they've come up the learning curve a lot. With that said, the NAV is $17 a share. There's a shelf offering that just got approved. So I wouldn't touch it until after they raise more capital.
Couple people in the chat, and J-Trade bringing it up here too. Do you see any of these cannabis companies getting into the blockchain, mixing the whole blockchain in with cannabis? That sounds like it could be awesome and hot. What are your thoughts about blockchain and cannabis?
The blockchain itself is very important to the cannabis industry. IBM actually pitched British Columbia on using blockchain as a solution. This is because it's highly regulated and you need to understand the whole chain of custody. So yes, but to the point here, if you see a company talking about blockchain and cannabis, 95% chance they're a scam. And so it's like you're going fishing, you want an extra fishing pole in the water. And it's kind of sad. This cannabis market has come very far. For those who have been following me since 2013, I started off in wild disbelief at what crappy companies these are. And now we have some really good companies and still a bunch of crappy companies. It's these crappy companies that are playing the blockchain card, in my opinion.
Great. And I'll hop in here too, Alan. This is Luke. I was saying right before you came on, that you've been smoking hot in your portfolio. While you were on, I went and took a look at the stats. I see you're up 125% over the past 90 days. I really encourage, everybody in the chat to at least check out the product for a little bit. In addition to the portfolio, I mean, there's a ton of great research that you do in there. Obviously, you're knowledgeable in the space. There's great community. It's active. I like just, scrolling through and checking out what the word is around town. There's the monthly newsletter. So, I'd like to give you a big thank you for all the work you've put into that. It's, clearly paid off.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And, kudos to the subscribers that I've had since late 2013. They've been through these tremendous cycles, and I think everybody's come out wiser and having a good time and making some money now as well.
All right, Alan, thanks for joining us here. A really extended segment here. We got to cover a lot of different issues in the sector, and we'll be back. We'll get you back on here in early 2018. Alan Brochstein of the 420 Investment Letter.
Happy New Year, guys.
All right, S&P futures trading up 3 points at 88.50. Dennis, you're looking for another sleepy session here with only 2 days left in the trading.
Yeah, it's holiday trade, and like I said, sometimes these things can go either way. And you can get some moves. Like once you get the ball going in one direction in some of these stocks, the liquidity is less and markets are thinner when you're in holiday trade. So if you do have news, which is rare for, you seeing news comes out. I mean, even looking at analyst action on that, there's like 2 upgrades here today. It's typically a quiet week for news, but if you do get news in a sector, it can be market impactful. So I think you're going to see quiet trade here. Again, we are trading up here. It's tough. Everybody's saying, well, where's the Santa Claus rally? We're on basically day 3 here now with no rally as of yet. And we kind of had our Santa Claus rally, though, did we not? The whole year was a Santa Claus rally. I mean, S&Ps didn't have any pullback bigger than 2.5% or something like that. So it's been a Santa Claus rally the entire year. So if you think, this market needs to tack on another 2-3% this week, it hasn't happened yet. I'm not sure it's going to happen.
All right, we're heading in here. We got about 2.5 minutes left. Luke, you seeing anything on your radar here that you're going to be watching today in particular?
No, nothing too crazy. I mean, you guys touched on the retailers. I think that'll be interesting. So no other big stories that I've seen piping out. I've been watching the wires pretty aggressively to try to find something, but we are in a low news week.
All right, and I don't see any sparks flying from Brent's keyboard here, so things are pretty quiet. We got Nick and Ty holding down the fort here on the second to last trading day of the year. I just want to preview tomorrow's show, and we're going to have Nicola Duke on, and she is an analyst for Forex Analytics, and it's good to hear from a female trader. Speaking of that, Luke, tell our listeners what we got going on in March.
Yeah, so pretty exciting. One of the things that we get to do over here at Benzinga is put on some cool events that have, great attendees, great speakers. I see Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful of Shark Tank on CNBC now. He's been a keynote speaker at a couple of our Benzinga events and does a great job. But over in March, we're doing a new first-time event in Boston. State Street is actually going to be hosting it. I'm sure that you've all given them money for their ETFs before, so you better come out to this event and check out the what you've already paid for up front. We are featuring women in financial technology. So we are going to have thought leaders, from everyone from Goldman Sachs to some of these big ETF companies to the women that are running a lot of the world's biggest mutual funds, talking about, their opportunities and what exactly they're seeing in the space.
All right, Dennis, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here.
I just want to bring up the SPY here, and I'm going to bring up the S&P futures because I know you're too cheap to pay for quotes on them. Yeah. But listen to this, and I mean, I'm sure you could tell it from your trading since the 19th. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 trading sessions. All the lows. I mean, I see the outlier at 66, 69, but let's just call it 267. Super extra major support has been the low in the last 6 sessions. And then the highs are starting to come down a little bit because of the muted ranges. The all-time high, 68.53. But basically, we've been in a trading range for the last 6 sessions here. Any Any strangles, any predictions here going into the last 2 trading days of the year, as well as 2018?
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if we got up and made new highs right at the end. It's been such a year for the markets, especially the S&P. And I think there's still people looking at this and saying, well, you know, the pullbacks now are when we're not going up. And we've had this consolidation for the last week here. But, you know, we still have a couple trading days left, including today and tomorrow, obviously. I wouldn't be surprised if they come with their buying shoes on and try to buy this up to all-time highs.
Ooh, there's a call. All right. Thanks for joining us here on Benzinga's Pre-Market Prep. We will be back tomorrow morning for our final show of 2017. Have a great trading day. Speak to you guys tomorrow.
Take care, everybody.